Hello comrades, my name is Alex. During 30 minutes I'm going to tell you some interesting things about mobile phones. Maybe you have already heard of some of them, but there is no time to change the presentation. So let's go. Usually when someone talks about some nuances about mobile development, it's hipsters who talk about retina, adaptability and use some words like media query, but in real life we don't use it. I am going to tell you about other things, for example things like that. Most of you think that such kind of things don't exist anymore, but in fact a big quantity of it was produced before. As they were produced and they work properly, they are still occupy a niche in the internet and bring some traffic. Otherwise, there are some analogues. Furthermore, new devices are still produced. If you will go to Yandex Market, you can see that those phones are still in production as they occupy the lower price segment. And it's not about how much time it will take, but the point is that there is a certain price of the development of such kind of device. It has a lot of advantages and disadvantages, but anyway, this niche will always be occupied. Who buys it? The first of our target audience are the kids, because they are feather-headed creatures. They like to break and throw it and doesn't make sense if they will break such kind of phones. Also, there are extreme sports enthusiasts who like to fall from different heights, and to break iPhone 5 is not good for them. So they prefer to buy the cheapest ones. The next people of our target group are tourists who like to travel to forests, fields and rivers, so they need phones with a good and long charge, and those phones have a good charge that holds for 4 or 5 days. In addition, there is Kupchino district in St. Petersburg, South Butova in Moscow, Liberty City and a big country like North Korea, and when you arrive there, they can take your phones because it can be a problem there. Even some travel agencies advise to bring the cheapest phones during traveling to those countries. Also pensioners who need simple phone without any additional functions. Who produces them? Of course, it's our Asian partners like China, South Korea, some Asian countries who is called Asian Dragons. They produce them in a very good quality. The next question is who develops an infrastructure for them? First of all, it's manufacturers, for example Samsung, who sells some quantity of such phones and then wants to get some money after selling. In addition, there are mobile operators who also want to get money, and mobile companies who resell the contents. How do they get money from users? Everything starts at the manufacturers' factories. They stitch in phones different tabs. For example, last slide, it's a game website. The middle one of the website is Tell it to operator. How does it work? First of all, you buy a phone, click standard tabs, go to the standard website of content selling. In case if you have Samsung mobile phone and go to the tabs, you will see this picture. Fly and Alcatel mobile phones have the same thing. Every manufacturer has its own tabs. There are also mobile operators who like to redirect some tabs or websites. For example, your mobile operator is MTS and you dial it wrong address and the server sends you 404 instead of giving you 404. MTS redirects you to the website of its content selling. Regards to that, they have additional traffic. And there are a lot of cases when you get to some websites and mobile operator redirects you to the website of its content selling. In addition, there are pre-installed games that can't be deleted if you don't have firmware upgrade. Those games are provided by vendors, companies and stitched in mobile phones at manufacturing factory. How does come the payment? First of all, there is direct website content sale. It can be videos, music, games or some erotic or porn contents. It's unlocked, for example, if you have some pre-installed games. As usual, such kind of games have demo period. After finishing the trial period, you can be proposed some unlock that will ask you to send a message. Scoring in such kind of direction, when you have a record table, for example, there is a website where you have Miss Yekaterinburg pageant, and we have to send the messages. And we have the players list. The main goal of every player is to be on the top of the list. If it's a game, it can be some scores or title of the best players of the week, month or a day. According to this, people send the messages. If you have some good quality content, for example, you have developed some good game using HTML5, stitched in mobile phone, and you would have a donation after selling of some additional things in the game and unlock an additional function. There are also two options that are falling slowly. It's the subscriptions that fell, but now they are trying to raise it. The point is that, for example, when you go to porn website and it shows some video, the system asks to unlock the content, to enter phone number or send a message, and then you will get a subscription. After that, you have to pay to mobile operator who provided you the subscription. Usually people subscribe unconsciously. Then they go to the mobile phone outlet asking why does the money end so fast. It happens because they subscribe to such kind of things a lot. Dial-up networking is the different kind of chats, voice messengers, and everything that can be done by sending a message. So we have to work with such kind of phones. The first two are HTML, touchscreen and none, and they find it on a smartphone. One would think that both of them are touchscreen, but what is the difference? The difference is that the second phone has the firm screen, and you should tap the screen, and there are a lot of things that don't work at such kind of phones. So the first type, mobile phones, have the standard screen 120, 176, 240 and 320 pixels, and DPI is always 1. Impose layout, and if it's possible, write less JavaScript, and everything will work as you need. In addition, there are some manufacturers of BlackBerry and Nokia who like to produce such kind of phones with non-standard aspect ratio. Usually, at the output they have squares or landscape orientation. It also should be taken into account. What do we have at the first touchscreen mobile phones? As I told you before, the screen is very firm. Because of one we have problems. First of all, if you need the user to enter some text, don't do it, because it's too hard to enter any text from such kind of phones. If they need to create login and password to enter the chat or some other services, create it and then just suggest to user to save it. Second mistake is that they write messages in Russian, but the capture is typed in English. For example, here to change the language is very easy. You just need to press the bottom. But at the most of mobile phones, to change the language is too complicated. That's why capture typing can be too difficult. But if you will generate some code that has to be sent by message, then you should generate it, don't push the user to write it. There are two things to consider. The first one is the browser interface element. For example, on the right picture, there is something that closed the bottom. At the every mobile phone, this function can be different. It depends on the firmware. According to this, you need 10, 20 or 100 devices, and you should open it on the every device and check how generally the browser looks like. Maybe there are some elements that can hinder the user to search the website. And the second thing is that all mobile phones are similar. If the user received the content and you have sent him a message that confirms the payment, then he closed the browser, so he wouldn't be able to come back to your page. It means that you should send the link of the page by message, where he can continue searching. How are the people selected? When we have a lot of people, the first step of selection process is by IP address. Every mobile operator has its own range of IP addresses. If you know the IP address, you can say to the mobile operator that we have a user. According to this, you should suggest him a special price for content or some additional terms. The second selection process is by user agent. If you know your user agent, then we can define the device and suggest some content for this device that fits only him. What do you need to take into account? If it's HTML mobile phone, then one game can have 20 options. The mobile phones are classified in groups, because the mobile quantity is too big. And we assign the solution to each group. Most of people think that now everyone has smartphones and it means that everything works in a different way. But in fact, everything works as usual. Smartphones can also be different. Two different manufacturers can produce two totally different mobile phones. It's the first thing.
могут сделать два абсолютно разных телефона с двумя абсолютно разными багами. Это первый момент.
And the second thing is that we have already had 3 operating systems. They are iOS, Android and Windows. One more thing related to the traffic. If you use tablet, then to play a game you will need more resources to display the content. It's because you have a big screen and you can open the pictures in a better quality. But if you will use the small mobile phone, then you need less resource. According to this, we can define an appropriate group and provide you a content which is best suited to your cell phone. What is the situation with other phones? What do we have with others? We have Fly, Sony Ericsson and Samsung, the same website, but Fly has an arrow. As I told before, we have some additional browser elements, and in this case, those elements covered the button up. Second example is Sony Ericsson, and the shadows have disappeared. Why? I have no idea. There is one operating system installed. The problem is that it's different mobile phone manufacturers. And Samsung, it seems that everything is good. There are no any additional elements, but pays more attention because changing the hash page, Samsung pop-ups address line. If other phones have input box, but in Samsung case, the input box will be blocked because of features of this phone. In this case, it would be covered by address line. One more thing. We have 2 Samsungs, the same manufacturer, everything is the same, and there shouldn't be any differences, but it has one. For example, first mobile phone underestimates the picture's proportions. In other mobile phone, it's not reproduced, and it's because of some phone features, which should be improved. Let's move to the technical part, how to solve such kind of problems. The first problem is text highlighting. We have always disabled it, so we recommend doing the same. But there can be some arguments that the user can choose or copy the information he needs. But there is no need to copy something, it's just an entertainment portal and you just need to click and do something. In the case when the users are not clear, the fingers can just copy the text instead of push the button and open it. Can someone guess bug regards to the picture? It's a keyboard that will close the input window. Sometimes the user won't be able to see the nickname, that means that he can't do anything. We should solve this problem, and there are so many methods to do it. For example, to set this field up. In the case if we have portrait screen orientation, then there is no any problem. A small digression, we have HTML application that is blacked out, VPK file. If you will put HTML into VPK file, when page settings change, then other problems appears.
Отработать абсолютно неадекватно, выдать другие параметры страницы. Поэтому в любой непонятной ситуации делайте resize, чтобы точно вписываться в окно мобильника.
That's why in every unclear situation you should do resize to fit the mobile screen.
Зумирование, когда вы двумя пальцами можете увеличить. Если вы эту штуку на мобильном сайте не отключите, то при пользовании этим сайтом или приложением пользователи будут страдать в связи с тем, что, опять же, жесты неточные, вместо там какого-то сдвига или еще чего-то, у них экран будет расползаться.
The other problem is that specific bug related to mobile phones. We have such case when user opens the game, goes to the next tab, reads the game description, he doesn't like it, pushes the button back and mobile phone restores the previous page.
Он нажимает кнопку back, и тут происходит магия. Мобильник очень быстро из кэша восстанавливает предыдущий.
A user's actions are smooth. It does not manage to release your finger from the screen and click twice to work out a new page that was instantly restored. To avoid such kind of situations, you should wait until the page loads.
Моментально восстановил. Чтобы таких ситуаций не было, мы, допустим, в ближайшие 400-500 миллисекунд с момента загрузки страницы просто не вешаем ни одно событие, чтобы медленные жесты пользователя не перекладывались на ту страницу, которая была восстановлена из кэша или из памяти.
Next step related to the list. For example, if user opened a long list, opened some game, read the game description and he didn't like it, he came back. In this case, we have to remember to scroll position to bring it back down the list. The situation can be worse when there are lists that are loaded. For example, the list of friends is loaded. Confirming to go on back, you should go back to the list where the user stopped, or you can save it in the local storage, and when you will go back, you just need to get it from the local storage and leave it where user stopped. According to this, there can be some problems with internet, and because of this, list would not be loaded.
И сразу отмотать на то место, где он закончил просмотр. Потому что, может, там интернет затормозит или еще что-то случится, у него просто список не подгрузится до того момента.
On the tablet, there is a game opened on HTML5.
У нас есть планшет, на нем запущена игрушка на HTML5.
The user pushes the screen, and what does he get? He gets this. It happens because browser controls every link and picture, and the system suggests doing something. To do it in browser is really good, but we do not need it if we have some applications. Then there is a solution. We can use GIF and stretch to catch all active activities and stop and put operating and control elements on the top of this GIF. In this case, any touch activities will be blocked, and we will not try to get the content.
А уже элементы управления ложить поверх этого дива сверху. Тогда у нас получается, что любые тач-события, они будут гаситься на нем и не пробиваться к контенту.
To set it up is bad. As much as you set it up, as more likely you will get some more mistakes. In this case, on the example of two cell phones, we can see that the second one does not increase the height of the address bar. It means that there were an address bar, but it has gone, the line below left. That's why, if there is an opportunity not to set it up, then you should better use the design of HTML code.
Поэтому, если у вас есть вариант что-то не позиционировать, лучше попытайтесь как-то сделать такой дизайн, чтобы это не позиционировать.
Other case related to setting up. If you have no choice and the only one designed to set it up, then try not to increase that index. Otherwise, there can be some mistakes, or you will stuck with the quantity of that index on the page. How can we avoid it? For example, there are layout and footer, and there are in front of it. You can specify that index to layout, and it will be in the forefront. Or you would just change it in the layout. After changing footer and layout, the footer goes back.
У нас как бы из этого индекса нет, и вероятность каких-то багов, она тоже снизилась.
The next step is related to the underline of the address bar, but probably everyone has already heard about the coverage receiving. If your page is bigger than the screen, then you should stretch it, scroll up to 1 pixel, and after that the address bar disappears. There is no any logical explanation for that. You can just use it because it works.
Логического объяснения этому нету, просто вот юзайте это, и оно работает.
Next step is to go to the Yandex and click, and there you can see yellow highlightings. Then click next one and blue highlightings appears. That's bad. It's really bad when there is some application and there appears some strange highlightings.
Если у нас четвертый Android, мы делаем клик, у нас появляется синее выделение.
To remove yellow highlightings, you can switch it off through overflow. To remove blue highlightings, you can need to catch all touch activities and stop it. If there are no touch activities, then no blue highlightings.
Отключат, вы можете их очень быстро найти на Stack Overflow. Чтобы убрать синее выделение, вам нужно перехватить все тач-события и остановить их. Нет тач-событий, нет синего выделения.
Lots of all like to write such kind of things when the menu comes up on the side of the screen. There are different plugins. Who can guess which bug is it?
Но опять же загадка, кто-нибудь может предсказать баг по фотографии, какой будет у этой менюшки? Ну, тут есть такой момент.
Here have some things like overflow hidden. For example, we have cell phone.
Вот у нас есть мобильник, а теперь мы его переворачиваем.
And now we turn it. In this case, overflow hidden blocked everything, so we can't scroll the menu up. According to this, if you use some plugin or write your own one, that will develop such kind of menu. Take into account that the screen is turned and you have to count the quantity of tabs that you want to enlarge. Bug related to hash and hash controllers. There are a lot of frameworks that I don't like. You should choose one of the hash controllers. To work with them is very easy. There is no need to think, and if you are developing an application for cell phones,
работу с ними супер-мега удобно, и вам не надо думать. И если вы делаете приложение для мобильника, там везде будет один и тот же
In
баг.
this case, you can use only one bug. For example, we have card game. Open menu, then open scores, records, and then close it in the same order. Next, press the button to go back.
Теперь мы на мобильнике нажимаем
The default browser action according to hash will start to hash jump in backwards side. It opens the menu, and we again push back to get into the box records. In the context of browser, it's totally right reaction, but it's wrong in the context of Android operating system.
с точки зрения мобильника и той же операционной.
If you press back button, then in the context of it, you will go out of the application. And if it doesn't happen, it's bad, and you should do something.
Если у вас это не происходит, то это плохо. Чтобы бороться
In the case, if you are developing your framework, then you should catch those moments and think about what was the cause of its system, or the upper press the button and cause this action. You should be able to distinguish to block extra moving back. So we finished discussing cell phones applications.
Нажимает кнопку и вызывает это событие. Их надо уметь отличать, чтобы блокировать лишние переходы назад. Ну что, с мобильником...
Now let's discuss new topic of application development for the TV. There is a girl, her name is Yekaterina, who presented her report at the conference Professor Yux. If you haven't seen her, then you should do it, because she presented a lot of good and useful things. And I am also going to tell some in the context of development. First of all, everybody thinks that programs development for the TV is very different from the development of the mobile phones. But it's not true. If you have developed the application that works on the phones, then most likely it will work on the TV. But there are some moments. First point is related to the way how people interact with TV in general. You should understand that working on the computer we sit very close in distance from 40 centimeters, then watching TV we sit on the distance of 4 meters. Usually watching TV we are very relaxed with the remote control, so all elements should be large enough and navigation of the application should be as simple as possible, otherwise they just won't be seen. As for the TV console, they are very different. We have smart TV and manufacturers produce a huge number of different consoles. There are a lot of some which touch screens to make it easy to use some applications. What do you have to know? We have to know that there always have basic controls. It's the button with X and the button with OK that can be navigated. There are also 4 buttons, A, B, C and D. They are for additional functions. You can choose the buttons if you want, the things that you have to take into account. For example, take this console and pretend that you are choosing the channel.
А теперь попробуй вот так представить, что ты щелкаешь на что-то.
The problem is that it's not comfortable to press the buttons. We always change the channels, change the volume, and we have to reach them, and it remote is very equipped.
Мы постоянно переключаем каналы, звук туда-сюда меняем. А за этими кнопками всегда приходится тянуться. Притом, чем извращеннее пульт, тем сложнее тянуться.
It's very difficult to use it. If it's possible to duplicate some functions on the X button, then you should better do it.
Если у вас есть вариант дублировать управление с этих кнопок на крестик, дублируйте его на крестик, потому что кнопки заставят страдать.
Those manufacturers who developed a keyboard make it more complicated to use it. You should also take into account one thing, like signal delay between the moment when we press the button and the moment when the TV receives the signal. That's why the procedure of entering the information is always very slow. Maybe it's slowly for 10-15 minutes, that on the phone. The manufacturer also tries to develop the keyboard more interesting, to make it simpler to work with, especially in the case of signal delay, when you have to press the button twice. That's why you have to develop your keyboards or use the plugins that have already written. Furthermore, it would be better if you developed auto-search or autocomplete on your keyboard, to make easier to use it for the user, because it's easier to use keyboard in case when the user writes as less as possible, or you can use the numbers. To avoid the difficulty to search the information, you can do devices synchronization. You can synchronize your phone and TV, enter the required information on your phone, then watch it on TV. For example, we are looking for some movie. How does it work? We have a TV, it shows the user an ID, user enters the required information, and at the end he enters ID.
И в конце дописывает айдишник. Ну, допустим, на YouTube тоже есть такая функция, если вы укажете на то, что вы хотите что-то...
When you write ID, it goes to the server. At this moment, TV checks if there are any updates for the entered ID. When TV receives updates, it shows the information, and there is no need to use console.
Этого айдишника. Когда он получает обновление, он сам вводит информацию, вам не нужно страдать с пультом.
How does it look like? It looks like this.
Примерно вот так.
Recommendations. Don't send any capture and don't enter ID using some letters. ID should be a simple number that is easy to use. Second, if it's possible to show the password to user to make his using process easier without entering any information, just press the button and start using it. You should do it.
Сделайте QR-код на странице. Это реально может очень сильно упростить задачу.
You can also write some instructions how to use it. Conclusions. The layout should be very simple. If you have some doubts, you can ask designer for some advice. Try not to set the things up. If it's possible, not write any passwords or scripts, then just show which activity it could be.
Скорее всего, это более печально закончится. Если есть вариант не писать код, не пишите скрипты, сразу показывайте какие-то готовые действия.
Catch all touch activities to avoid any types of selections. Always try to suggest alternative information input methods or alternative ways of performing the same action, because usually the service and devices cause some inconveniences. And test everything. Test not only programs, but also take a box of different devices and try to test on every other piece of it, because different devices have its own features that are not described anywhere. Questions. According to the second part of the report about TV, did you develop Java application or is it just the application for the TV?
Про телевизоры. Вы разрабатываете Java-приложение для браузера или это application прямо для платформы телевизора?
Talking about my department, we develop JavaScript in all cases, but we have alternative developers. Regards to the TV, we developed every part of it using JavaScript. As for cell phones, it's more complicated. We developed everything you can use in JavaScript, but the rest of it we have Java developers, and in Neat he finishes using Java.
Рядом сидит разработчик на Яве и дописывает это на Яве.
То есть для телевизоров у вас есть опыт только по Java-платформе, да?
JavaScript-овый, ну да.
Да. Спасибо.
Thank you for your report, good review, but I have some questions. Is that report about mobile websites, about development of mobile applications, or about websites which can be opened by browser? I am asking that because I just want to ask for a favor as a user, as a developer, and for the people who don't know even the basis of IT development. In the case if you don't pack your website, or if it's not an application, and it's possible to open it using browser, not switching off such functions like selection and copy, zoom and touch activities, the finger is big, so it needs something that will select necessary information. I mean that to use website where such functions like zoom, selection and copying are blocked is too hard.